It's always been sort of hard for me to talk about my favorite movie because I have a lot of them. I really like watching movies, and I really like watching movies over and over again. And I don't really know why I like the ones that I do, or at least I've never really thought about it in a way that I would kind of convey it to someone. I mean, when I first got this assignment, the first movie that came into my head was Vertigo. And so I guess it's my favorite movie, but I don't really know why. I hadn't seen Vertigo until a couple months ago, maybe less than a year. But as soon as I saw it, it really had a lasting impact on me. And I think that that was, I mean, partially about the story, of course, but I think it was also because of like a lot of visual tools that Hitchcock uses. And he kind of ties in the more explicit with the more implicit. And I think that it's like a really nice marriage. And it's a really thoughtful marriage. Like the movie makes you think. It's not intuitive, it's not easy, at least in my opinion. So I don't know, I think I really just value it for that. So Scotty, the main character, is haunted by these flashbacks to the past, from when he was a detective with the San Francisco Police Department, and his inability to control his acrophobia led to his partner's death. His vertigo is obviously a major theme throughout the film, but Hitchcock continuously brings us back to that point by employing the vertigo effect. So, by zooming in during a reverse tracking shot. Hitchcock uses this tool a lot throughout the film, to the point that it could be argued that Scotty never really left that rooftop. Hitchcock resurrects the past in many other ways as well. As a viewer, we're taken into the life and death of Carlotta Valdez, a figure in the history of San Francisco who's supposedly possessing her distant relative Madeline, who also happens to be Scotty's friend's wife. Gavin, who's Scotty's friend, asks him to investigate his wife's whereabouts, and by following her around, Scotty's taken by the history of San Francisco and falls in love with this woman who's a walking, talking portrayal of the past. After Madeline, who Scotty believes still is possessed by this woman, Carlotta, commits suicide in front of him, he's totally afflicted, and he has to go live in a sanitarium. And when he gets out, he's still obsessed with this past love that he had with a woman that he knows is deceased. We later find out that the woman that Scotty believed to be Madeline is actually a look-alike named Judy Barton, whom Gavin paid to help stage Madeline's death to be a suicide so that he wouldn't be charged with the murder, and she did this in exchange for money. Scotty discovers Judy living in San Francisco and becomes obsessed with her, not as herself, but in turning her back into this image of Madeline, and therefore Carlotta, that he once loved, forcing her to change her hair and clothes to fit the woman who is now dead. This is where the film gets really fuzzy. Everything turns totally subjective as Johnny spirals into madness, all the while thinking that he's actually going to cure himself by returning this woman to the image of this past love. Eventually, this obsession with the past leads to a reenactment of Madeline, who's actually Judy's, suicide, causing her too to fall to her death. So obviously the plot has a lot to do with an obsession with the past, but something I think that is often overlooked are the ways in which the locations mirror that theme as well. All of the film's major repeated locations are historical in their own right. Old hotels, museums, graveyards, a mission, and even Muir Woods, and all of those trees are hundreds of years old. In using these locations, Hitchcock weaves together a dramatic and suspenseful plot with a more apparent visual cues that maybe makes Vertigo stand out not as my favorite film, but definitely is one that I appreciate for its ability to establish order within a story that's more grounded in the subjective. So, I myself am a really big history fan. So, I think that this film really gives history justice. Of course, these people are fictional. Carlotta Valdez is not a real woman. I could not go see her painting or her gravestone. But I think that the way that Vertigo sort of crafts a really interesting, really dynamic, and really action-packed story out of something that's grounded in history, in the past, something that a lot of people, frankly, find boring. I really think that that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite film. I know it sounds silly, but it's something that I care about, and consciously or not, I feel like Hitchcock cares about it too. So, I don't know, maybe that's not a good enough reason. I really think that the paying attention and do justice to history is really the reason why Vertigo is my favorite film.